Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. All right, ladies, I have another great iTunes review of the week. This one is brought to you by Mojo on the Island, and it reads, I am almost 60 years old and have spent probably 50 years worrying about my weight. I just listened to one of Kim's podcasts and loved her advice and outlook. I wish I could have heard this years ago, but looking forward to listening to more and changing my attitude. Oh, Moy on the Island. This is exactly why I do this podcast, because so many of us have been wrapped around the axle about diet and exercise for decades, and we are done. We are sick of it. And I am so grateful that you are able to find me, and I'm grateful that I'm able to help you shift your mindset around what diet and exercise looks like for the next best half of your life. So if you have listened to this podcast and you love what you are hearing, please do the same thing. Leave me a review. I absolutely love hearing them. I love reading them. And it just gives me that pat on the back that I am giving you what you need to hear. Now, if you're stuck with I don't know how to do this, I don't listen to iTunes, do me a favor, hit me up. I will definitely help you, walk you through how to leave that review. So you can find me on Instagram at Kim Jefferson Coach, or you can shoot me an email, hello@kimbarnesjefferson.com. All right. Now on to today's episode. Hey, Magic Makers, welcome back to another episode of the Fit Girl Magic podcast. And today we're continuing on our series that I started a few weeks ago. And we're really diving into this whole metabolism, right? All of us use the word metabolism, but I'm really breaking down what the bleep it means. And so if you have not listened to the past two episodes, I did an episode on, what is metabolism and is your metabolism tired AF? And then I also did an episode on reverse dieting. I will link both of those in the show notes to make it easier for you to go back and listen to that. Because basically they set up everything that I'm going to be diving into today. So let me just do a quick recap. For those of you guys who are like me, who like to flip to the back of the book to be like, is this worth my time? Girlfriend, it is going to be worth your time. In the reverse dieting episode, we dismantled the belief that eating less equals better. And I feel you, right? That was the edict that we were given, back when we all started dieting in the 80s and 90s, eat less, move more. That was it. And we learned that if your body was stuck in a diet for years, cutting calories and over-exercising and still not seeing results, that was a problem. And what we needed was more restriction. So what I propose in the reverse dieting mode is that what if all of that, the cutting the calories, the overeating, was the reason why your body was not giving you the results that you're looking for, right? And propose that it's no longer in need of restriction, it's in need of recovery. And especially in these years when hormones are taking over and what our body used to rely on isn't there on a regular basis. Our body is now, in, kind of the declining hormone age where estrogen is not there to protect our joints and inflammation. Progesterone is not there to protect us against stress. And so we're putting all the same things, into the mixing bowl that we used to put in, but they're key ingredients that we aren't able to get on a regular basis, AKA our hormones. So it's about how do I learn how to, one, deal with my over 40 body, change my mindset that I'm not broken, change my mindset that it's not going to happen in 2.2 minutes, that what I need is recovery. I need to fuel my body, and I need to learn how to reset my metabolism, because my metabolism, one, has been living in fear that it's always in this, like, I'm barely holding on to the food that you are giving me, but you're always asking me for more, more, more. And we're wondering, why isn't it responding the way it used to?
Hey, Magic Makers, real quick before we dive in, can we talk about your metabolism for a second? If you feel like your body has been giving you the finger lately, you are not crazy and you definitely are not broken. You might have a metabolism that is tired AF. I created a fun quiz to help you figure out exactly what's going on with your metabolism and what the heck to do about it. You know, it could be, are you eating too little? Overtraining? Maybe doing the right things and still feeling stuck? This quiz will call it out. It only takes a few minutes and you will get a custom result that is spooky spot on. So if you're ready to stop throwing spaghetti against the wall and finally figure out how to eat, train, and feel good again, go take the quiz like right frickin' now. Link is in the show notes. Let's figure out how your metabolism is holding you back and how to get out of diet jail. So back to the show.
So in the reverse diet episode, I've really broke down, how do you slowly add back the calories? How do you stabilize your energy? How do you build a body that actually begins to respond again? And that's what we've been looking for, right? We've been like beating the crap out of our bodies for decades. And we're like, why isn't it giving us what we want when we want it? And the truth is that a chronically underfed body is not fat burning. And anything, it's going to be fat storing. And when I say fat storing, I mean more inflammation storing, right? Because it's just holding on for dear life. And if your body is stressed out, it's going to shut down. And you're going to be like, why doesn't the scale move? So now, if you're, believe me, in that reverse dieting, what comes next, right? What should you think about what comes next after you've kind of gone through that reverse dieting phase? The next phase is maintenance, right? And so I want us to define what maintenance looks like, because I know for me, I was like, maintenance? What the hell are you talking about? And when most women hear it, just like I did, you think it's code for plateau. You're stuck. You're not progressing. You're not doing enough, right? If your weight stays at a certain level for a certain amount of time, you're like, oh, something's wrong. But that's not it at all. It's not even close. Like, if maintenance feels boring, maybe it's because we were never taught that boring is actually the key to freedom. It's funny. I remember when I was working with, growing my business, and I was working with my mentor, and she's like, detail what you do every day. And I was like, oh, kind of boring. And then she goes, Kim, what if people need to know that it's boring? That, every day, you don't step on the scale and you're down 2 pounds. That every day you're not creating some new recipe, or you're not creating some new, following some new diet fad, or you're not doing something new. And it's true, right? No one ever posts on social media, hashtag got 8 hours of sleep tonight. Woohoo, go me. No one posts on social media, hashtag didn't stress like a mofo today. Woo, go me. No one posts that. Most people post like, oh my God, I can't believe how tired I am. Oh my God, I'm so stressed. Even in daily conversations you have with people, how many of people are like, you're like, oh, Sally Sue, how are you? Girlfriend, so busy. Oh, so exhausted, right? That's all we hear. We never hear like, I'm boring AF. I'm doing great. We don't hear that. And maintenance, sure, it's boring. It's not exciting, but guess what? It's where you live. It's like the balance between the extremes, because I don't know about you. I was done being extreme. And I know that a lot of times when I talk to my clients and I'm like, okay, that's fine. You're like, nothing really changed this week. Great. Awesome. Good. Keep it up. And they're like, what do you mean? Because if you're getting the results that you want, it's working. If you're not getting the results, I'm not going to tweak 50 things, because if I tweak 50 things, it's hard for you or me to know what actually worked. So if we change one thing and it's like, okay, why don't you focus on upping your fiber? And then I know if you up your fiber, that's the toggle that works for you, because not every toggle works for every person. For me, I need more fats. when I have more fats in my body, I feel more satiated. When I have more fiber in my body, I feel more satiated. So it's like for me, my focus when I'm eating is getting in my fats, getting in my fiber, and getting in my protein. For somebody else, fat might make them feel bloated. And so for them, it's less about fats and more about protein. But until we kind of start to get into the nuances here, we don't know. And to get to the nuances, it requires a couple of weeks of work. And that's where what most people are avoiding. They're avoiding the work, right? For years we've been told, like, here is your magic plan. And if you follow this magic plan, well, maybe there's pieces of the plan that work for you. And over the years, the one thing I want people to start to learn is like, I'm going to call it discernment, right? So what is discernment? Discernment is like taking what you need and leaving the rest. And so there's a new woman that I've been introduced to, and she's got this great protocol. Pieces of it, I think, are absolutely fabulous. Other pieces of it, I think she is batshit crazy. But I'm going to take what I need and leave the rest. And sometimes I need for you guys to start to do that, because so many of you kind of put the blinders on and you're like, I need to be, right now, the big movement for menopausal women is intermittent fasting and plant-based. I know for me, I did plant-based for about 6 months. I did plant-based because I had an extremely high level of estrogen in my body. And one of the ways to get rid of the estrogen was for me to go plant-based and increase my fiber. And that's what I did. And there was a reason. It wasn't because I went to a party on Saturday night and I saw Sally Sue, and Sally Sue was going plant-based, or I listened to a podcast and that podcast is going plant-based. Now, if you're plant-based, rock on with your bad self. But I need to ask you, I personally, I did not enjoy plant-based. For me, I think there is the best way to do plant-based is for you to truly eat plant-based foods, not to, I'm calling them Frankenplant is the way, those, Impossible Burgers, those I don't even know this, like those Morningstar Farm things. Those are Franken foods. Those are highly processed foods. There's no less than you saying I went to McDonald's, right? For those foods, they're just ridiculously highly processed. But if you're someone who's like, I make my own black bean burgers, rock on with your bad self. I make my own, tofu Alfredo sauce. Great on you. I didn't like plant-based because I don't like to cook. Also, I eat out a lot, and I found it was very challenging because, one, I don't like tofu. And so for most places that you go to, tofu is what they think is vegan. It's gotten better, but this was 10 years ago, right, that I was doing this. But it was like, or you could have like, I'd order off the kids' menu, and I would have literally like, pasta with sauce, or I would string together several sides for a meal. That just wasn't appealing to me. So that's one of the reasons why I don't enjoy plant-based. But it's like, I need for you to ask yourself, like, I want to enjoy my life. Like, I didn't make it this far in life to be like, I'm just going to just suck it up. Like, why do we have to suck it up? And so, as I mentioned, it's like, take what you need. Maybe you do like living a more plant-based life. Great, rock on with your bad self. But also, like, if you want to throw in a little more meat in your life, throw in a little bit more meat in your life. I know one of my clients, I'm going to call her plant-ish. She, for the most part, it's like an 80-20. 80% of the time she's eating more plant-based, but she also knows she just can't get the protein that she would like to get in her life. So, we throw in a little fish here, right? So it's like kind of finding that yin and that yang of what you're doing. If, you're intrigued by intermittent fasting, but you work out in the morning, maybe instead of fasting first thing in the morning, maybe we set a time during the day that you stop eating. So maybe, your last meal is like 3 p.m. and you don't eat again until like 6 a.m. right? So I didn't do the math there. I just made that up, pulled that out of my rump shaker right now. But I think you're picking up what I'm putting down, right? So instead of that fast being in the morning, the fast is in the evening. So it's like adding nuance for yourself, having a way for it to make it work for your body, right? So that, it starts to feel like I said, maintenance is boring because no one taught us that boring is the key to freedom, right? Maintenance is that place in between the extremes that this is where our metabolism gets to breathe. Our metabolism gets to be like, oh my God. It's like vacation, if you will, right? How many of you, like, there's a special place that you go on vacation? For me, the beach. Like, as soon as I see like the water and the sand, I'm like, I'm in my happy spot. And that's what maintenance is for your body, right? It's where our routines normalize that we're not these kind of like this like Richter scale of like, I'm on, I'm off, I'm on, I'm off. I'm like so off because I'm so pissed at myself, right? It's like when we realize that we can stop starting over. And so, there's a study in Obesity magazine that talks about 80% of the people who lose weight regain it within a year. And you know why? It was because no one taught us how to maintain it, right? We were only taught this is how I white knuckle my way through the day. And then you kind of like slowly let the reins off, right? And then all of a sudden you're like full on like uh, crazy mode, right? You're anything that's not down, it's going in your mouth, right? Maintenance isn't sexy and it's not a sprint. And that's, I think, the hardest part for most women, to understand that. I had a client that I've been working with she's probably coming up on her year working with me. And in the beginning, so much of it was shifting her mindset around that this isn't 30 days to a tighter tush. This isn't 30 days to six-pack abs. Like over 40, over 50, hell, and if you're knocking on the door of 60, like that's just not how our body works anymore. Especially if I have several clients in their like late 50s, early 60s, and they will admit they've been dieting since their 20s. So that's over 40 years of dieting. 40 years that your body is like, I can't, I've tried, I think about like, if you've ever seen, I live in a neighborhood that's like half and half, like half the houses have been like rehabbed, half the houses have been kind of like put together with some Band-Aid and some glue, and other parts of the houses are like, they're just like holding on for dear life. And you're that house holding on for dear life. If you've been like, in your late 50s, early 60s, and you've been like dieting for most of your natural born life, your body's is holding on with Band-Aids and some glue right now. And this reverse diet, this maintenance, it's like the rehab crew, it's like Joanna Gaines coming in and doing her like rehab on you. This is what's happening right now. And so maintenance, it's not sexy, but it's the foundation for long-term results. This is like your home base. And, I talk a lot about seasons, like what season are you in? And it's like every 12 weeks, we're assessing what's going on. Is like, am I preparing for a vacation? Am I, am I like, I don't really have anything going on. I can really focus in on building muscle. Like, so that maintenance is that place that we can like either bump up our calories a bunch and put on some more muscle, or pull down our calories a little bit to lose a little bit more weight. But it's our home plate. It's our place that like we know that we can either grow or we can shrink. And so maintenance is, and I have a great ebook all about maintenance that I'm working on. And if you want a copy, do me a favor, just DM me maintenance, and when I am done writing it, I will make sure you get a copy of it. But maintenance is that you're living within a 3 to 5 pound range, and know that like you aren't like a bank balance, right? That you're not going to balance to the penny. Back in the day when you balanced your checkbook, right? You wanted your checkbook to like balance to the penny. We're not going to balance to the penny here, right? There's going to be 3 to 5 pounds, and it's the cycle of life, right? You had a couple extra carbs, some extra water, you might be dehydrated, you're up 3 to 5 pounds. And that's okay, right? So if you're normally weigh like 150 pounds, you might be 150 one day, sorry, 150 one day, 153 one day, 155 one day. And then you're just going back and forth. And if you're someone who is married to the scale, um, there are two apps that I really like just to show you kind of like how like life fluctuates. One's called Happy Scale if you have an iPhone. And one's called, I think it's Lyric if you have an Android. But it is a way to just kind of like see the ebb and flow of your weight. The other thing I like you to use is, a pair of jeans. And now I'm not talking about a pair of jeans you wore when you were 25 and you had like 3 less kids. I'm talking about a pair of jeans that in the last 5 years, you put them on and like, these are the jeans, like my butt looks good. It doesn't dig into my belly button. Like that's what I want you to put on, or a dress or some piece of clothing. Because I think for most of us, we're not chasing a scale weight. I think for most of us, we're chasing body composition, right? And that's the one thing that I've learned from my competition days is that no one ever put a scale out for you unless you were bodybuilding, and I did not bodybuild. But for the competitions I did, it was never about my weight class. It was age, right? That was how they put us in groupings. It was my age. And it was more about your body composition, your body fat. And so if you want to track that versus tracking scale, I'm more on board with that than tracking scale weight, because the scale weight, there's just too many factors in scale weight. It's like, it's water. Did you poop? How's your sleep? Where you put it in your house, what time of day you're measuring. Do you have clothes on? Like, there's just too many variables in the scale. But I'm a big fan of, body composition, getting a DEXA scan just to see like how much how much muscle that you actually have compared to body fat and all of that magical stuff. And so with maintenance, it's that, you're looking to eat enough to support your workouts, your mood, your sleep. There's no more white knuckling. There's no more like, oh, I can't have a banana. It's too much sugar. Like, oh, I can't have a mango, right? It's no more about that. It's like we went through the reverse phase to find the foods that work for our body, right? And now we're just in the rinse and repeat mode, right? We've got our non-negotiables, the things that are the things that we know that we can do no matter where the hell we are, no matter how busy we are, be it the protein, be it movement, be it fiber, be it sleep. Like, we are like, whatever our thing is, we're doing it on lock. We're we're no longer tracking calories. We're tracking our hunger. We're tracking our energy. We're tracking our cravings. We're tracking our sleep, because we stopped trying to be perfect and just focus on being consistent. Right. And I regularly, I ask my clients regularly, I'm like, hey, what are your non-negotiables that you're working on? And I usually get like 10 things. And I'm like, ladies, I know that we want to put the cape on. I know we want to leap tall buildings in a single pound, all of that. But it's like, I promise you, when you pull back, that's going to allow you to do more. And from experience, I know that it took me probably like a good 3 years to like just nail my original non-negotiables were 10,000 steps, strength training at least 3 days, and getting 7 hours of sleep. That was my non-negotiables for a really long time. Now that those are like boom, 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 I feel like 2 years ago I changed it, and I was upping it to like getting in at least 4 to 6 cups of vegetables every single day. And then I was making sure that every single day I was walking at least 10 minutes. Like, so I just added 2. I just added 2 freaking things. That was it. And that was what I was focusing on for a really long time. And I've now changed my non-negotiables as of 2025. And my non-negotiables now, I am having 2 tablespoons of beans with every single meal that I eat. And I'm still working on my 10 to 20 minute walks. And, 10 minute in the wintertime, because I live in Boston and it's cold AF. But now that it's, warmer, I'm like, okay, I can double that time and I'm now doing 20-minute walks, but that's it. Like, those are the things that I'm working on. Am I still sleeping 7 hours? Absolutely. Am I still getting in that 4 to 6 cups of vegetables? Absolutely. Am I still getting in my steps? Absolutely. But I've just slightly made some tweaks to my basics, and that's it. And I think for so many of us, we like give ourselves this 500 list. And if I'm not doing 500 things, I think I'm not going to get results. But this is what I know is that when I do those 3 things, I feel good. And when I feel good, I feel accomplished. I want to do them again. And many times, when I start with women, they'll be like, Kim, I had a client that I started with, and she's like, Kim, I pack my food and I just don't eat it. And I was like, are you packing foods that you like? And she's like, no. And I was like, can we just start with like, I want you to find one meal, just one meal that you like. And she's like, well, why just one meal? Like, I have to eat. Blah. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I want you to find just one meal that you like, one meal that you look forward to, because I know that if you look forward to it, you'll eat it versus you're packing foods because you should eat it. And then guess what? She packed the lunch that she actually wanted to eat. And then I told her to set an alarm. I'm like, set an alarm. She's a nurse. So I said, set an alarm. And if you tell someone, hey, Sally Sue, I'm going to go take a bite of my sandwich or a bite of whatever it is that you brought, no one's going to be like, no, you can't. Someone's going to be like, oh, take your bite. And when you're back, I'm going to take my bite. Right. So it's those little, it's like the small steps. Like, we want to like sprint all the damn time, but I'm asking you to just take 2 steps. Right. And that's what reverse dieting is. That's what maintenance is. It's learning to do things that we just didn't do. And again, if I stop trying to do the list, stop trying to, check every freaking box and just focus on what I can do to be consistent, then one meal doesn't derail me. One bad day doesn't send me into a spiral, right? Stepping on the scale isn't going to be this, oh my God, what happened, right? It's not going to be that, because I know when you have enough structure, you feel in control, because I know you control freaks. I see you. I am a recovering control freak too. I don't share things with you that I haven't been through. Like, if I like opened the lid to my internal crazy, some of you would be like, wow, you might stop listening, or you might be like, I just found my new BFF, but the key here is to have enough freedom so you can live your damn life. And that's where I live. For so many years, I had this like rigidity. Yeah, that's the word, rigidity. It had to look like this. It had to be like this. It had to. And every time that you bumped up against the wall, I knew it forced me to want to cheat on it, or forced me to want to find a way around it. And that's what and then for some of you, that rigidity is keeping you stuck. That rigidity, because your body isn't doing what it used to do. Your body's not giving you your body isn't giving you what it used to give you. You're all like in your feelings, and you're all like, all right, I don't know what's going on. And I did a podcast probably a year-ish ago, and it was about the 4 mindsets that us ladies over 40, we need to start shifting. And, one is that rigidity, right? That like, it has to look a certain way. And as I mentioned, it's like at this age, I have to take what I need and leave the rest. If something I've constantly done is no longer working, I gotta leave that shit alone. The adage that like, I have to go to the gym for a certain amount of time. That's a big one that I find working with us ladies over 40. For years, right? We had to go to the gym 90 minutes, and it was a combination of cardio and strength. And one of my clients, I was working with her, and she's like, well, how much cardio should I do? I was like, well, I want you just to prioritize strength. And if you have extra time, you can throw in cardio, because the biggest things I see is that women tell me that they don't have time. And I want you to get in and get your lift on. And if you have the extra time, sure, you can put in a little cardio, but I want you to focus in on that strength training. And, I give in my for my clients, I do give what I call a finisher. A finisher is not supposed to be cardio. A finisher is for that woman who is after we finish the workout and you have a little bit more time and you have a little more energy. It gives you that little metabolic boost, but it's not exactly cardio per se. It's just that metabolic boost. And she's like, but it's not going to do anything. And I was like, have you tried? Right. But, and I'm guilty too. Like you would look at something on paper and you'd be like, that doesn't look like it's 2 hours. That doesn't look like it's hard enough. Yet the challenge is, can you pick a weight that's heavy enough that by the last 2 to 3 reps of the last set, you feel challenged? Can you really like focus in on great form? Can you give yourself rest and recovery in between your sets so that maybe you don't have enough in the tank to do that finisher and you don't want to stay and do the cardio, right? Because I would rather you get in the walks than the cardio. But if we need to add in the cardio, we'll sprinkle that cardio in. But it's not necessarily always you must do cardio every single time you go to the gym. I think of cardio as a sprinkle because for some people I know, myself included, when I do cardio, it kicks up my cravings. It makes me super hungry. Like 2 weeks ago, I met a friend, we went to the gym, and afterwards we walked in the treadmill. And she's like, oh, I like to play with inclines and speed on the treadmill. I'm like, okay. And I did that. And I come home and I was craving like nobody's business. And so that's a sign for me. I'm like, you know what? If I walk, it needs to be the gentle walks. Right. I can't, like my body doesn't, it was 30 minutes and my body can't handle that. Typically when I'm doing cardio on my own, it's about 15 minutes. And it's like, I know that that's like the level before my body's like, we're going to crave. And your body is never craving like, I'm going to want some carrots and hummus. Your body is like, for me, it's like, I want all the carbs and all the sugar is what my body craves. So I want you to start to like really think about what season are you in, right? So that we do have that structure with our non-negotiable, but it also gives us the freedom that I can go out socially and not feel like, oh my God, I'm going to blow my diet, right? Because if we're being honest, like maintenance isn't easy. It's essentially the beginning, right? You don't get applause for holding steady. You don't get daily scale wins. And you might even feel lost because you don't have a diet. And I get that. That's completely normal. But instead of us shrinking back to what we know and knowing it's going to give us the same results that we're trying to fight, but it's comfortable, right? It's our comfort zone. Like, I know to wake up and I know exactly what Stairmaster I'm going to get on and I'm going to do my kickbacks on that damn Stairmaster and I know exactly what I'm going to put in my breakfast shake after I do that fasted workout. And I know exactly what I'm going to do when I do this. And I know exactly what this, and I know exactly the results I'm going to get. 0. Now, I'm sorry if that sounded harsh, but I want you to really start to kind of say, maintenance is not a break from the results. Maintenance is how you learn to make things sustainable. Because ultimately, I see it all the time. Like, you can do that program forever until I go on vacation, until something in my schedule changes. And then you're like, oh, what the heck do I do now? And so this is where we learn to stop chasing and we start owning what works for our body, owning finding peace, owning creating habits that are not just a 12-week sprint. They're like a 40-week sprint. They're just what you do. Like, you don't even think about it. It's like, you go out and if you don't want the food, you don't eat it. I hosted a call a couple weeks ago and we were talking about summer and we're talking about, just things that happen in the summer. And this woman's like, she goes, my biggest problem is like, if something's on my plate, I have to eat it. Like, and we all grew up in the clean plate club, right? If you take it, you have to eat it. And that's a habit that many of us need to start breaking, or be okay that you had 2 bites. And if it didn't ring your bell, you don't eat it. All right. It's not worth the calories, and 2, it's not worth the mind game of, oh, I shouldn't have eaten this. You tried it. That's it. That's all you could do is try it. Especially, when you go to events where, someone made their world famous, whatever their world famous thing is, or you're at a family event and, Aunt Gladys made her world famous potato salad or green bean casserole, um, you tried it, right? Because now that like we're learning what habits are that work for our body. And when we get to that maintenance part, it's not this 2 weeks to maintenance. We're going to trip. We're going to stumble. We're going to fall. That's okay. And that's where you have a coach who's like, yeah, dust stuff you need, sis. You need a Band-Aid. Here's some ways to kind of get us back, into that maintenance groove, right? Because once you get to maintenance, once your body starts feeling safe again, once our energy and cravings are like in chill mode, our mood is stable, then we get choices, right? Because it's like maintenance is our house, and then we can decide, right? Are we gonna go the fat loss route? But here's the thing: fat loss, it's short, it's strategic. It's not a free for all. It's not a like eat less, move more forever mode. It's about 4 to 6 weeks, and then we come home, right, to maintenance. Or we go the different route. We bump up our calories a little bit. We focus on heads down, building some muscle, performance, and physique gains, and then we come back to home, right? So, the key here is it's like we need to fight for maintenance, fight to understand where maintenance is, that home place, fight to this is my home, this is my house, and I'm going to fight and defend my home. And then from, 4 to 6 weeks, we reduce our calories and come back to home. 4 to 6 weeks, or more like 6 to 12 weeks, we bump up our calories, we build, and we come back home, right? Because if we don't master having a set time frame, then we are a yo-yo, right? It's like, 1 day, 2 weeks, 1 day, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 weeks, because it's like, you're not dieting forever, right? It's a short period of time. And so here's where, again, we have to apply strategy, and let's be honest, at this stage of life, most of us know what's going on. If we were to look at our year, if I start, let's map out a random year. So let's start in January. If I look in January and I say to myself, and I'm going to look at the first 90 days, I'm like, okay, I know that typically my husband and I go on vacation in February. I know that. So I can look at myself and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to go on a mini cut because we're going on vacation in February. So January 1st, I'm on a mini cut for my February vacation. My February vacation is over, and then I start to reverse my way out. And I know hey, I got nothing going on March and April and May. So I'm just going to stay in maintenance, right? I'm going to reverse my way back up. I'm going to hang out in maintenance. And then maybe this summer, I'm like, I don't really have anything going on this summer. And so maybe I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to either stay in maintenance mode or maybe bump my calories up a little bit and just focus in on building because I'm not really doing anything this summer. And then maybe I'm like, oh, I'm traveling in the fall. And maybe I'm like, come August or September, I'm going to pull my calories back down and do a mini cut. But it's like, did you notice how I looked at the year and I kind of was like, I kind of know how my year's going to go. Yes, life always throws us curveballs, but we all know that. So let's say I'm going to throw you one of my clients. One of my clients, she is a teacher and she coaches a fall sport and a winter sport. So what I would say to her is hey, fall, we are just going to be in maintenance. And we're going to say, this is your maintenance. And you're going to say, these are the 3 things I'm going to focus on. Right. And fall, so I think fall sports, let's say starts in September. So from September through March, you are just going to be a maintenance mode and you're just going to focus in on your non-negotiables. We're not building, we're not losing, we're just trying to stay consistent. And if she's going to pick what the consistencies are, is it proteins, is it steps, is it sleep? She's going to pick those things. She's just like that. That's where I'm going to put my heads down and that's what I'm going to say focused on. And then when her winter sport is over, say March, it's over, then she can decide, okay, I can go into a mini cut, I can go into a build, but that's where she can kind of make her judgments. But do you see where it is? Where it's like, you kind of have to look at your life and kind of determine where the season is for you. And just because something says, just because the season that we might be in is spring, maybe you're not in that spring season. Maybe you're more in the winter season where you're like, you know what, I can hunker down and I can build here. Or maybe you're in that summer season where you're like, you know what, I don't want to be tied to anything and I just want to stay in maintenance. Or maybe you want to be in spring and you're like, all right, I want to prune up and, do something for summer. You decide what that looks like for you. But you decide. All right. So this is where I'm going to leave you. Maintenance isn't a punishment. It's not where progress stops. It's a phase. You're not going to get through overnight. But in this phase, this is where you actually build your life, the lifestyle you've been chasing. This is the freedom that you've been chasing, and it's not one set number on the scale. There's flux, right? There's flexibility. And it's not about hustling hard. It's not about being the queen of the diet. You need the home base so that you can maintain it. So if your metabolism is tired AF, it's because you've been jumping from diet to diet for longer than you want to admit. And it's now craving peace. It's craving power instead of chaos. It's craving, how do we control? This is your next move, right? Maintenance. It's not flashy and ain't sexy, but the freedom is so worth it. All right. So magic makers, do me a favor. If this has landed with you in any way, do me a favor and leave me a comment on my socials, or send me a DM, screenshot this. And if someone needs to hear this, but maintenance is the magic. And I know it took me a really long time to find it. And once I found it, let me tell you, girlfriends, I am not giving this shit up. All right. It's staying with me. So I want you to, again, like, have a listen to this, like, and have a listen. And I'd love to hear where this is landing for you. And if you're like, I don't know where I am with my metabolism, I have that free quiz. So absolutely take that quiz and I'll let you know where you are landing in that quiz. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day and I will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.